New devices are combining with the human body to change our world.
As we learn more about how to make things smart, we're also slowly understanding what makes people smart.
This man hears in color, all thanks to this antenna implanted in his skull.
I feel cyborg. I am technology.
Modern spacesuits face a watery test on Earth. And I put on a headset that gives me a different kind of brain power. Wearable technology. We will find out more in this week's edition of Earth 2050. Hi, I'm Joe Petta, and welcome to Earth 2050. The old saying that clothes makes the man looks like it's going to take a new meaning as we approach 2050. Entrepreneurs and futurists are coming together to create things that we could put on or even in our body that could transform the way we live and interact with the world.
We're going to see a real big splash of technology. It's going to be the new bubble, I believe.
Perhaps the first piece of technology that people actually wore was the watch, which centuries ago was a revolutionary device. Being able to tell time wherever you went was a luxury, and an expensive one. It was an early form of what futurists now call augmented reality.
Augmented reality is where you go out into the real world and it's augmented. It's increased in its information value.
These days, augmented reality has gone way beyond knowing what time it is. With the advent of things like Google Glass, people can automatically access data systems that can tell them almost anything about the places and people they come into contact with.
If I were looking at you, you might have a bubble over your head with your name or your favorite food or something like that if I had an application that knew that. So it's just the embedding of digital information into the environment.
There are devices that can quickly scan the faces and identify everyone who comes within your field of vision.
Your eyeglasses will look them up on a registry and then paint on the inside of your lens a name tag for everybody who's going by. You'll never be at a loss for someone's name again, or their 3-sentence profile, or notes that you made about them when you met them 10 years ago.
This takes what we call the information age to a whole new level, for better or worse.
The real question by 2050 is who controls that technology? Is that technology wielded by governments which are benign and they respect a certain amount of privacy? Or are you going to have authoritarian governments and you can't do anything against that government?
One place where there's little debate about the value of this kind of technology is in healthcare. Wearable or implantable healthcare devices have gone beyond pacemakers and hip replacements. Electronic skin will relay real-time health information to you and your doctor. Contact lenses have gone well beyond improving vision.
There's circuitry in the contact lens and it's touching the eye and everything else is there. The contact lenses can detect your blood glucose level. So not only are they eyewear, but they're monitoring your diabetes.
But perhaps the ultimate frontier for wearable tech isn't here on Earth, but in space. The modern spacesuit is a marvel of engineering and functional design. It has to be to allow a human being to survive in a place that's filled with deadly solar radiation, has no oxygen, and sees lethal extremes in temperature.
Putting a human body into a suit, which is literally its own spacecraft, is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Not only does it take all of the support on the ground, the support of all the technicians and the engineers to make this happen, but it also takes one person, and that's the astronaut.
The piece of wearable tech not only has to protect astronauts, it also has to give them the ability to do their jobs, which would be complicated even under normal conditions here on Earth.
You're inside of a pressurized suit, and there's a lot of work that goes into just performing simple hand movements.
The suit has evolved a lot since it was developed in the early 60s. Body temperature is regulated by a system of tubes that push water around the astronaut's body. The carbon dioxide that they exhale is poisonous, so it's filtered out to keep them breathing safely. And the whole thing is tested underwater, the closest environment on Earth to what they'll have to deal with in space.
For every 1 hour they spend in space on a spacewalk, they're probably in the pool 8 to 10 hours for that 1 hour.
All that development and experimentation makes for an expensive piece of equipment. Each suit costs about $2 million, and they're still a work in progress. By 2050 or before, human beings will probably be living on the moon, and maybe even Mars. So this ultimate piece of wearable technology is changing with us as we move together into the future.
We can never stop exploring. The reason why it's so important to explore is that we don't know what's out there. We don't know really what's out there, but the only way to find out is to explore.
Coming up on Earth 2050, for this artist, color is music.
So to you, sound and color are kind of the same thing.
Yeah, so there's no separation between color and sound.
Imagine a world without color. A world in which this beautiful sunset looked like this. Or this beautifully colored bird has no color at all. A world where this unique rock outcropping reflected only shades of gray. For an artist, a world in black and white could be an insurmountable handicap. But as we approach the year 2050, what were once obstacles are obstacles no longer.
We're going to start coming to a point where our imagination is really our only limit. So in other words, could I have 3 arms? Probably. Would I want them? I don't know. Maybe I could get there.
Some artists have actually begun to put pieces of technology in their bodies. They're the explorers, they're the first ones.
I'm at an art studio in Brooklyn, New York that's home to a pioneer in futuristic devices. He's using a unique tool designed to expand his senses, to make the world bigger through technology. His name is Neil Harbison, and the colors we take for granted are something he's never seen.
So you've had a condition since you were born. What's the name of it and what does it do to you?
Well, it's called achromatism, and it's just total color blindness. So I see shades in gray. So I don't see the difference between a color photograph and a black and white photograph. I see the same thing.
Fascinated by what for him was an unknown world of color, Neil decided to do something about it.
Here?
What Neil helped develop is that device suspended in front of his forehead. It's an antenna, an electronic eye connected directly to his skull. Even though Neil can't see colors, this device allows him to sense them. He took me through this art gallery to give me an idea of how it works.
So let me know, what do you see here? What do you see different colors or what exactly do you see?
Well, I don't see colors because I see in grayscale. So what the antenna allows me is to sense these colors through vibrations that become sounds. So I'm actually hearing the painting.
Hearing color? I really wanted to find out how this worked. It turns out that we see color the way that we see everything, by light being reflected from a surface back into our eyes. Different colors reflect light in different ways, and it's these differences that are picked up by the electronic eye implanted in Neil's skull.
Whenever I look at something, I hear the frequency of the light. And in this case, I can hear G sharp, which is a shade of something between a yellowish, greenish color.
Yeah. So let me know, what do you see for this one?
This is a bit silent, then here's noisy, here's silent, here's noisy again. So it's like a musical composition, this one actually, because you have 3 notes, 4 notes, 5 notes, and then silence. So it's a new way of exploring the planet that you live in. So instead of exploring new planets, you can actually explore the planet you're in by adding senses. Once you add a new sense, the world changes, and you live in a new planet, basically.
Neil's electronic eye took years to develop. The first model weighed more than 10 pounds and it had to be rolled around.
I didn't want to wear technology because I found it very uncomfortable, especially at that time it was very heavy. I wanted to create the body part and I wanted to have it implanted because that would have been the most comfortable way.
The new device weighs only ounces and it's actually a permanent part of his body.
Do people ever call you a cyborg and do you mind?
Yeah, I feel cyborg. I think that the term cyborg is more of a feeling, and In my case, it's feeling that I'm not using technology and that I'm not wearing technology. It's feeling that I am technology.
Neil is a trained musician, which makes him perfect for this device. It's easier for him to recognize the sound each color creates. So is it possible for people who aren't colorblind or even completely blind to experience the world the way that Neil does? The answer is yes. And it turns out that there's a smartphone application that can make it happen. Coming up on Earth 2050, I hear color for the first time.
I'll try it. Let's see. All right, go for it. So that's either red or orange. Welcome back to Earth 2050. As the devices we create get smaller and work better, wearable or even implanted technology is being used more and more. And that's not only changing the devices that we use, it's changing us.
We're blurring the lines. There will come a time when you won't be able to tell where the living thing stops and the machine starts.
That's something colorblind artist Neil Harbison knows firsthand. The antenna implanted in his skull makes it possible for him to hear colors. He says the device makes him the world's first official cyborg, and he's got the passport photo to prove it.
The passport office in the UK didn't allow me to renew my passport because there's a law that says you're not allowed to appear with electronic equipment. So I told them that what they were seeing was not electronic equipment, that this was a body part. I kept insisting, and then in the end they said yes.
That was only one of the hurdles. Getting the operation to make him into a cyborg wasn't easy.
How difficult was it to find a doctor that would do it?
That was the most difficult part because I had to talk to bioethical committees, and then they all said no. So I had to find other ways, and then I convinced one doctor, and then he said he would do it, but then he remains anonymous. This type of operations are still being done a bit underground.
To Neil, color is music. Each color has a unique tone, just like the keys on a piano. And that makes all parts of his life, from the food he eats to the clothes he wears, a lot different than it is for you and me.
So when you get dressed in the morning, what kind of chord are you putting together here?
Well, I'm dressed in C major today, so I'm wearing I'm wearing C shoes, G trousers, and E t-shirt, and this is a silent bow tie.
Of course. You know, you wouldn't want to add anything else. That's great. That's awesome. Dressed in C major.
Even though Neil is a trained musician, he's done something unusual for someone who can't see colors. He's branched out into the visual arts. At his Brooklyn studio, he takes old long-playing records and paints them so you can see the music on them.
I'm just painting on top the main sound of each track. So, for example, this track, the dominant note of this track is G sharp, so I'm painting it G sharp, which is this color.
Bothersome.
Spending the day with Neil had me wondering what it would be like to hear colors the way he does. There's a smartphone application that can make it happen.
So this is what you're hearing in your brain right now?
Yeah, the app mimics the antenna, so it's more similar to what I'm hearing. This is the sound of orange, for example. It's quite low, whereas blue is higher. It's much higher.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So orange, blue, and then we have magenta, which is even higher.
I wanted to see if, like Neil, I could recognize a color by its sound frequency.
Red. Oh, I think
So we devised a test.
But red and orange sound very similar, so it might be a bit complex for you.
I'll try it. Let's see. All right, go for it. All right, so that's either red or orange. I'm gonna go with orange.
Very good, that is orange. Yeah.
So it's not quite as high as magenta. I'm gonna go with like a bluish color.
Yeah, good.
Neil is happy to be a pioneer in wearable tech. For him, a black and white world vibrates with sound of color. A piece of graffiti is a small symphony, and he's convinced that in the coming decades, he'll be one of thousands of people enhancing their lives with devices that will become part of their bodies.
I feel that this is actually a body part. I feel that this is me. Operations like this will be slowly more and more accepted, that people that want to become technology will find doctors that will be doing it.
And the intersection of man and machine will take us places no one could have predicted even just a few years ago. Coming up on Earth 2050, moving objects with the power of my mind.
Ready? Begin.
Welcome back to Earth 2050. Let's take a moment to use our brains to think about our brains. The human brain has been described as the most complicated object in the known universe. How this thing works has fascinated mankind for centuries. And we're learning more every day about what our brains are really capable of.
We're slowly understanding what makes people smart and which pieces of our brain works in which ways. And we're finding out that human beings are doing things in ways we did not expect.
Consider this incredible fact. Scientists estimate that if a robot had the same brain power of a human, its brain would need a small hydroelectric plant to keep it running. And how does a brain work? Think of it as a series of roadways on which billions of bits of cellular energy, scientists call them neurons, carry the electricity that powers our thoughts and all of our movements.
When we think, we have neurons in our brains that fire signals to pass information between one another. And that signal firing creates electrical signals at different frequencies and amplitudes.
Those electrical signals are literally our brain power.
We're finding out that certain patterns of neurons are actually encoding information in ways we had no idea it could do. That just single neurons are capable of incredible processing power. By themselves, it's not just a transistor, it's almost a whole computer in a neuron.
And new tools are allowing us to access that power like never before. Yes, I'm actually controlling that little ball, or at least trying to, with the power of my mind.
No. Think about llamas.
The piece of wearable tech I'm using is made by a company called NeuroSky. The headset they've developed allows people to make things move through simple brain power.
That's what our headsets are actually capturing, is that electrical activity coming from the brain. Our technology captures the brain information that the person has at any given time, and then they map that to a particular application.
All right, so put the headset on. It should be picking up some activity now. What am I seeing here?
Right now, this is your live brainwave data. So everything you see right here is happening in real time. So essentially, when your brain fires off these different electrical signals, our sensor is able to pick it up and correlate it.
That's a big leap forward. In the past, monitoring brain activity was mostly left to doctors.
The alternative has been to use a very expensive medical system, shave your head, use gels on the electrodes, but now they can capture the signal very easily without all of that, and very affordably.
The NeuroSky headset aims to take the use of brainwave power into our homes and schools. Developers say that having consumers being able to tap into their brain's potential could have all sorts of applications.
A lot of people are unaware that our brain is a muscle, and that essentially we can train it and condition it to perform at an optimum level. All we need is essentially the tools.
Applications for children come in the form of games. This one, called Focus Pocus, allows kids to compete with each other while using their brainwaves to race objects or characters across the screen.
You're the guy in the middle. You're racing against these two, the wizard and the little elf at the bottom.
When someone just looks at something on these games, their personal brain power is directed to that area. The better they concentrate, the better they do.
I'm trying to keep my focus above the little white triangles, right? Focus, 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 focus. Faster, little guy, faster. No. It's like, it takes a lot of effort.
This technology has been used by students of all ages, but in the future it could have uses that go way beyond brain training.
At a certain point, our machines will get in some fashion smarter than us, in some way. And the real question is, we don't know what's going to happen exactly when that happens, but we think some things will get very, very easy.
One day, almost any mechanical device could be controlled by brain power.
I want to hit line drive.
Which means that the once far-out dreams of science fiction writers are no longer so far out.
Hi, I'm Joe Penna, and welcome back to Earth 2050. This is a fairly typical Los Angeles street. Plenty of shop signs, some people, cars, advertisements, basically a lot of information from a lot of different sources. Many futurists say that soon the amount of information we get on a simple walk like this could double or even triple.
The world starts to become much more malleable as we sort of create a digital version of our world and superimpose it onto the real world. As you and I are walking down the street, we can be seeing news headlines or weather updates blended into the environment.
You go out into the world and it's augmented. You want to go someplace, there's a yellow brick road right in front of you that's overlaid on the sidewalk. The buildings, if they're commercial buildings, you click your tooth or you voice a little command or you tap something or you twiddle your fingers in a certain way, and some of the building's walls disappear. They seem to disappear because that building, the owners said, we want you to see what's going on inside. We want you to see all the merchandise that we have.
Integration of information will be complete across all of human culture in everybody's hand. Not just the internet in your pocket, but all of realized human culture together in each moment. So the wisdom of everything we've ever done is right there and is helping us.
People keep waiting for the future, but it's already here. There are artists who can hear colors and can teach me or you to do it too. In the next couple years, there's no telling what kind of gadgets we'll be wearing or how they would change the way we interact with each other. We'll explore that in a future edition of Earth 2050. For now, thanks for watching. I'm Joe Penna, and I'll see you next time.